Mm-mm. 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 I don't want to be seen.
Thank you there. We have some people that I'm still admitting people as we go. Thank you. I see you, Councilman Bradford. Let me hear you there,
Can you
Councilman
hear me?
Bradford. Yes, yes, yes.
Good evening, Pastor. How are you?
Okay, doing very good. Thank you very kindly. Want to make sure that I can get you. Let me go ahead over here, brother Petaway. Brother Petaway.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you for participating with us as well. I got a few people. Dr. Panay Woods. Dr. Panay Woods, thank you. Good to see you all the way from Memphis, Tennessee there. Thank you for coming, and I'll give you an opportunity in a few minutes to share a word with us as well. I want to let us get our numbers up as people. It's right at the 6:30 hour there, and we are still people are coming in. People are still coming in, and I appreciate that. I see you there, Honorable Mayor. Thank you very much. Good to see you there, sir. You doing all right?
I am. Good to see you as well, Pastor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have the players here, and we're going to. I have most people who are muted. I'm going to share my screen and share a few things. Come on in, Ms. Anderson and others. Thank you all so very, very much. I know we're going to thank you. Looks like the numbers are coming up there. See quite a few of you also, and we're not going to take too much of Councilman Bradford and the distinguished mayor's time, and but we're going to just keep on rolling. And so, those of you as you come in, I will admit you as I share. I want to share this screen here for you as well there. And here is this is our weekly connection. And what we have been doing during this time frame is we have been getting together in order that we stay connected during this pandemic. And so during the pandemic, we are trying to make sure that we are staying connected as best as we possibly can. We want to make sure that we are being physically healthy, spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, and physically healthy as well. And so tonight we're going to take a different approach, as we're going to have these persons that are going to talk to us about more than just being physically healthy, but spiritually healthy or mentally healthy. But these are people that are going to talk to us, if you would, as it relates to how we're going to combat this through our communities and how our communities are going to remain healthy as well. Let me go ahead and offer this scripture as a word of encouragement. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things, from Philippians 4:8. I had an experience just this past week where we have begun to live stream our services on YouTube. And when I went back to view the video, I began to notice some things that were wrong with the video. I noticed first that in the corner, there was a broom standing in the corner there, and the door was open and I could see the shadow. These were outside, these were things that were in the picture, but they were very minor, but I noticed them, and I was just about to take down the video. Before I took down the video, I ended up getting a text message from one of our members by the name of Jewel, and Jewel said to me, Mr. Hudson, Reverend Hudson, I'm glad I got a chance to listen to that message again. The point I'm making is this: I was focusing on a distraction, and she was focusing on what was most important, which was the Word of God being preached itself. So sometimes during these particular pandemics and situations like this, it is best that we just focus on what is most important, as opposed to us being bogged down in distractions. That's a lesson that I learned, and I wanted to make sure that we had that opportunity there. Councilman Bradford, I want you to go first and greet us, and then we're going to let you share, and then then we'll move on to the mayor, and we'll take some questions and do a little back and forth there, if you would. All right? Go ahead, Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Pastor Hudson, and to the mayor, honorable mayor, and to all those that are participating in this discussion. I want to thank you, Pastor, for inviting us to participate, to share with you some of the things that is happening in Shreveport, as well as in the district in which I represent, and the district in which your church is located. Shreveport has been very busy because we have had instances of this virus attacking some of our residents, our citizens. And the mayor has been, just outstandingly awesome in working with Homeland Security and working with the other governments of this area to ensure that we have all the safety apparatus in place to address these issues. So I won't come back and talk about my specific district and interest, but I want to yield to the mayor, Pastor, if I could, to let him update us on what has been happening from his advantage.
All right. Mr. Mayor, I believe we met back in, I believe, 2017. You were getting ready to go to your to your senior year of law school at Harvard, and we sat over at Captain Shreve High School and we talked about your days at West Point, and how you were able to sit among some of the great scholars, the great legal minds like Charles Ogletree and Supreme Court justices and people like that, Alan Dershowitz even. And you chose to come back to Shreveport and to serve in public service. Vernon Jordan said something once, who was an advisor to President Clinton. Vernon Jordan said, sometimes we have to be able to do well before we can do good. And what he was saying was that perhaps it's best for us to make some money in order to come back and do good. And for whatever reason, that's not the path that you chose as a Harvard attorney. So I want to make sure that you know that I appreciate that, and this community has to understand what a sacrifice it is that you have made to choose public service as opposed to going to Wall Street and making a lot of money. Let's hear from the mayor, please.
Thank you, Pastor, so much for the kind introduction, and I remember that conversation. And my life has taken a very, very interesting path. It's not as, if you consider money, it's not as fruitful with money necessarily, but it's more than fruitful when it comes to fulfillment and purpose. I love Shreveport to death. It's my hometown, and I would rather be nowhere else. So I'm happy I am where I am, and I'm happy to be here with St. Luke tonight. So hello to everybody that's tuning in. Again, thank you for the invitation. I want to thank Councilman Bradford, who is a dear, dear friend of mine, one of my strongest allies on the city council. I'm going to miss him dearly. I was calling him today and the last couple of days trying to get him to stick around for me, but he's told me no. Um, but no, I want to talk. I thank you for the opportunity to talk to the community about the current COVID-19 coronavirus crisis that we're in. I'll tell you all this. For everybody that's tuned in, I really hope that you leave this call and you talk to your brothers, your sisters, family members, coworkers, and stress the importance of this virus and stress the importance of us taking our own necessary precautions as we go out into the world every day to protect ourselves, or when we go out into the world for those essential things. Because this virus is it's not a game, it's not a hoax, it's nothing to play with at all. The virus has devastated our community more so than a lot of communities in our country. And I'm going to start off with the bad news first, and I guarantee I'll get to some good news eventually. But per capita, we at one point were in the top 10 cities in the country with this virus. Where we stand today, we have over 1,500 confirmed cases in the Caddo Parish, and we have over 100 deaths. And I say those numbers often, but every time I say them, I have to remind people that these aren't just numbers. These were coworkers, these were family members, these were people within our neighborhood. So each one of those numbers signifies a life and a lot of meaning and purpose that we no longer have in our community. From that's the lives portion of it, but I also have to remind people of the livelihood portion of this in talking about our economy. A lot of people have been laid off, terminated, or now collecting unemployment, various things. And that's how they put food on their backs, how they take care of their children, you name it. We started off before this public health crisis at about 4% unemployment. And we are going towards what we think and estimate now about a 30% unemployment rate when this is over. And hopefully our economy will be able to rebound and we'll be able to get that number down rather quickly to something more sustainable. But that 30%, again, that represents, people's livelihood. So the virus has did a number on us, but we have put in a lot of precautions to fight back against the virus. Some of those precautions, it really starts with monitoring the cases. And early on in this process, I was very worried because we weren't even testing a dozen tests in a week. And I kept hearing from our healthcare. I get a briefing every morning from our healthcare systems. And they were saying, hey, we're not getting the support we need out of Baton Rouge. So, I was constantly on the phone with the governor. We've increased capacity so much in Shreveport that now we actually test more per capita than any other city in the state, more than New Orleans, more than Baton Rouge. And Louisiana is testing more than any other state in the country. So Shreveport is at the cutting edge of actually getting tests out there. Even if you don't have healthcare insurance, you can still go to our mobile testing sites. And we have 5 set up across the city. 4 of them, you do have to have a medical referral, but one of them, the Walmart on Barksdale, the Walmart you can go to, you don't have to have insurance and you can get a test there if you need it. The parishes in LSU and the city, we partnered together to roll out a mobile testing site for people that don't have access to vehicles to get to those stationary testing sites and to healthcare systems. So testing is important so we actually know where we are. And then we have an enforcement component of our public health where we had to make sure that people were adhering to the governor's orders, the governor's executive orders, and the executive order that I put out myself. And we've been tracking that data as well. One of the things early on when we figured out that we had hotspots in our community and that these cases were concentrated was because we had the data of people calling in about violations, and we had the data from the healthcare system where we were able to map out to see that a lot of the confirmed cases were concentrated in African-American neighborhoods. And we actually discovered that early on, about a week before the governor talked about it and before it really hit national news. And I had a call with some clergy, some local leaders that I know to tell them, hey, please spread the word that the African-American community is being hit hardest by this virus. Our neighborhoods are hit the hardest. So we really don't have room for error with this. And as it stands today, we still hover about 70% of those deaths, the 100+ deaths that I talked about, are African-Americans. So that's why it was very important. And enforcement came in handy. It was very important for the testing. And that's the way we've been really trying to keep safety up. We also got a donation from the Haynes Corporation where we were able to distribute 90,000 masks in Shreveport. So we're giving people the tools that they need to remain safe when they go out to do shopping. At some point in time, whether it's this week or a couple of weeks, we have some community development funds that we're going to try to inject back into the economy, in addition to the federal funds that's coming down, to help those small businesses, those locally owned businesses, those minority businesses get back up to operating capacity and try to help them. So this is kind of the good news as we come out of it. The last thing I really want to applaud us about is that just today, it's come out in national news that Shreveport has one of the fastest declining rates of confirmed cases. So that really is because of you. Everybody that's listening, everybody in the community, listen to the governor's stay-at-home order, did the right things, didn't go to the cookouts, didn't go and pick up that Coke when you wanted one or when to pick up the food. You stayed at home. You stayed away from family members. You wore your mask if you needed to. You wore gloves. But we have seen a dramatic decrease in the rate, and that is great news for us. People always complain about Shreveport and say we make national news for the wrong reasons. But we made national news for the right reasons with this one. And I will conclude my remarks with this. As you all probably know, the governor has extended the stay-at-home order to May 15th. It is my belief that the time from now until May 15th will be one of our hardest challenges because our economy is still opening up. He had 3 changes in there where now restaurants can have outside dining. The mall can do pickups. If you're a business at the mall, you can do delivery outside. They can't walk through the mall. And with these changes, you have some people that are saying, okay, things are fine now. And with that good news, people are saying, okay, things are fine now. And people are going to start to let down their guard a little bit as we open up the economy. If we let down our guard too much and individually we stop being cautious and we stop making the right decisions thinking that this is over, I fear that we will see another rise in cases. So it's important. It's critical that we all continue to do the right things. We all continue to take the precautions that are necessary. We all continue to make decisions that's going to protect us, protect our family, protect our community going forward. Or we can find ourselves on a much, much longer, more painful path than what we already are on. And I'm sure everybody agrees that this has been painful enough and long enough as is. So let's just continue to be vigilant and continue to make those decisions that's going to keep us safe at the end of the day.
Now, one of the questions that I would ask you, Mr. Mayor, would be regarding, you mentioned the quote unquote hotspots, and they seem to be targeted among and around the in African American communities. One of the questions that we are perhaps from a city government's point of view, what measures are perhaps you're trying to put in place along with Mr. Radford there? What are some things that perhaps you would be trying to put in place, or what messaging needs to come from the pulpit? So even though the pulpit is physically vacant in some instances, however, we are using the mediums of such as this, social media. What help can we give you, and at the municipal level to help that? Because I don't believe either that it's not a 5G conspiracy. It's not targeted. Help us understand that, please.
Yeah, and the 5G conspiracy is interesting because that's like waves, microwaves, and you can't create or something organic like a virus through microwaves. So that's very much a myth. But this helps. This is one of the most important things that I can do, that Councilman Bradford can do, is spread the messaging, because a lot of people, and you all know this, aren't going to listen to the governor. They aren't going to listen to me, but they will listen to you all. You're the moms, you're the dads, you're the cousins, you're the neighbor, you're the pastor. And I love the opening of this talking about spiritual health. Well, that's paramount for me right now. That's what's really getting me through this. But pastors and clergy right now, you have so much authority to encourage, to not only make sure people are encouraged, because this is your mental health right now. Everybody's mental health is being challenged, but also to make sure that people know this isn't a hoax, and that you really need to, God put doctors on this earth for a reason. You really need to do all that you can to, protect yourselves and protect your family. So Pastor, this opportunity helps us with the messaging. Some
Okay.
things in addition to that, when we notice the hotspots though, we have, again, those masks that we handed out, we made sure we focused a lot of our numbers at those community centers that are in those neighborhoods. The messaging, I got on the radio station, a lot of the predominantly Black radio stations, and told them, hey, these are the neighborhoods, even though initially some people pushed back against me and told me, hey, you shouldn't put that messaging out. But that was so important. We partner with the parish, so now we actually have mobile testing sites going to those areas and conducting more tests. So we are doing all that we can to make sure that people are aware, and people are doing the right things to curb the spread of this virus. And that's all that we can do, considering that this virus does not have a vaccine. Our best line of defense is our personal behaviors, the things that we can do, washing our hands, wearing a mask, staying at home. So that's what we're trying to do, is just educate, and push that message as best as possible in those areas.
Now, I did get another question, and I know that this is not like cities like Los Angeles and Chicago and New York City, where the schools are run by the mayor's office. However, I plan to have Superintendent Goree on within the next few weeks to talk to us about, have you all been coordinating, talking about, of course, beyond safe ways to begin the school year. And one of the things that I know that you had to give permission to was to set those dates for the graduations at the convention center. Can you share with me, help me a little bit there, and then I want to hear from Mr. Bradford there.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have any official authority over the school systems, but me and Dr. Goree are always on the phone. I can tell you one of the first things that really alarmed me and really gave me pause when all of this started to occur was when they closed schools down, we really needed to figure out how we would get food to a lot of our children.
Exactly.
They very much rely on those, that lunch. Sometimes it's their only meal for the day. So we partnered with SportTran to allow our children to have free bus rides to whatever sites they needed to go to be fed. So since the beginning of this, the city has partnered in whatever way our schools need, with Cattle Parish School Board. And Dr. Goree knows that we're there for them, and however they need us going forward. I very much support and think it was the right call for our schools to close, at least during what was the academic year, because as things have come out, COVID positive patients, they're estimating that up to 48% of people are asymptomatic, meaning they can have it and not even know it. And children they're in the majority of that group. Children are the bulk of those that were asymptomatic when this virus first started to come out. So kids playing at school, not knowing they have it, can give it to other kids who then bring it home to parents and grandparents. So I very much supported that. Now, how they open things back up, I am not 100% sure right now. That's definitely going to have to be a question directed at him. But again, however the city can help to support whatever safety measures they need, if they need more space to spread kids out, whatever they need, we will be there for them. This truly has to be a team effort in order to keep our city safe.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we're going to come back to you. But one of my longtime friends, encouragers, and supporters, Mr. Bradford, I thank you so much for helping us out on tonight. So go ahead and share with us what concerns you have in regard to the community itself, the MLK neighborhood, or things that you perhaps have left in place, or things that you'd like to see done. And what would you like to see us do?
Well, since I want to stick with the subject, and I would be remiss, Pastor Hudson, if I did not say to this audience what I've said to the council members and I said to the mayor, that out of all the individuals that I've known, to have Mayor Perkins as mayor of the city during this crisis, during this time, I think is remarkable, because he's young and has the energy and the foresight to address the issues that we are facing. He mentioned earlier that we started off as a hotspot. We had 5 communities that was identified as some of the most vulnerable communities. The mayor purposed all of his initial resources to address those communities, and he mentioned that's why we already these numbers are declining. in these communities. And the MLK was the #1 community, the community in which St. Luke sits right now and I represent. So I'm saying that the mayor has designed the approach that we have taken. He supported me 100%. Even at the council meeting 2 days ago, we allocated some resources to give him more resources that he could continue to use. But his strength has been his ability to create relationships and networks with the parish, with Homeland Security, with the state, the governor, and he has bought every aspect of resource that we can use to make our community difference. Now, in regards to my district, MLK community, the mayor didn't want to initially, but he was sort of compelled to, because even with the initial stay-at-home, self-distancing policy, a lot of activity was still happening, and he had to somewhat dispatch his police force to go and ensure that those self-discipline, self-distancing issues would be adhered to. There would be no compromise on that, and that has helped. Like we're all concerned about the economic impact that it's having on already economic disadvantaged neighborhood. We are looking at repurposing how we would jumpstart our economy, and how this community, District 8, MLK, would be given some resources to help small businesses and to help those areas that we need to help them on. The message is simple: stay vigilant. Don't do anything that's unnecessary. Wear your face mask. We on the MLK area last week, we gave out over 2,500. In the whole area, like the mayor said, we gave over 100,000. But be vigilant, be cautious, and let's continue to work together and make Shreveport a safe community again. Mm-hmm. We're going to come back. I'm confident we're going to come back. The mayor's led us well so far. He's very, again, astute, proactive. We're going to get this thing done. Thank you again, and I appreciate the mayor coming on, sharing what he shared.
Absolutely.
We're going to continue to work together to make this thing better. The outcome would be great.
Thank you, Mr.
Support of all of us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Bradford and Mr. Mayor. One of the questions that I received deals with this issue of testing. And I know, Brother Bradford, you are aligned with the healthcare industry. Mr. Mayor, are you in contact with within the healthcare community in order to see what we can do about the disparity, if you would, between the testing? I think there's a perception and a reality of a disparity between who gets tested and who does not. And so, from your perspective as the mayor, what are you hearing, or Mr. Bradford, what are you all hearing from the healthcare executives as it relates to that issue of testing?
Yeah,
Mayor, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I get a briefing every morning from representatives from all the major healthcare systems in Shreveport, and their testing procedures are given to us by the CDC. We adhere to CDC guidelines, and that's up and down the board. I haven't heard of any actual patients that have been refused testing, not since maybe the first week or two of this outbreak. And the reason why early on they had to be so selective with the testing was because, again, the turnaround that I was saying, it took us about a week to get back the first dozen tests from our area. That's how we were confident, because we had sent so many tests out. We had sent over 100 tests out, but we had only got a dozen back. That's why we were confident that even though we were reporting single-digit numbers, that our numbers were actually going to be much higher, because there were so many tests out that we hadn't gotten back yet. So early on, they were being very selective. At this point, the supply chain, the viral swabs that are needed, the testing sites, our capacity has increased so much that we're able to test a lot more people at this point. As far as people that live in the hotspot areas, obviously, if they have healthcare, if they have healthcare insurance, they can go to any of our healthcare systems and be treated. For those that don't, though, That's where those initiatives like the mobile testing sites come into play.
Exactly.
Like I said, they can go to the Walmart off Barksdale, Shreveport Barksdale, and be tested. Any first responders, you name it, they can all be tested there. The mobile testing site that is going to MLK neighborhood, I think it's already been there, that's going to Moortown. If they don't have healthcare insurance, they can go to the mobile testing site. So at this point, testing is widely available, and anybody that becomes symptomatic should have access to it. If they say they can't find the resource, they can very much reach out to my office, reach out to a hospital, and they should be pointed in the direction of testing. So that was a problem early on, maybe a disparity, but that's not a problem anymore.
Thank you. Mr. Bradford?
Yeah, the mayor is correct. And we don't want to misguide anybody, mislead anybody, though. Even if they went to the mobile testing sites, they're going to ask them, do they have commercial insurance? And if they do, they want to take advantage of that, because the more reimbursement we can get, the more people we can see anyway. But there's no shortage. Nobody's denied the testing. What we have gotten, the mayor and I was out on Saturday giving out masks to a few of our senior citizen apartment complexes where they couldn't get out. And we got asked the question, can we get tested? Well, that's not the process. I mean, we asked the question, has anybody in this complex been diagnosed with the disease? And they said, no. Well, we have a specific schedule to address those communities and those areas where that virus has been prevalent. But what we are looking to do, and I already sent it up with a healthcare entity, that I'm gonna send some people over to a couple of these senior citizens apartment next week. We're gonna take a temperature of as many residents as we can. That's usually one of the first symptoms that we see. If your temperature is over 100, then there may be cause to take an additional approach. But we just can't, alter the schedule to go into areas where there has not been a case study to say that they need it, just because they say we want to get tested. But I'm asking everybody to be patient, and with the mayor's leadership and with the leadership of our Homeland Security people and our parish commissioners, everybody is on the same board, same page in addressing these issues. So testing is not a issue as it relates to those that are vulnerable to this disease.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the mayor, I want to thank you all for your time. I have Brother Pettaway, who's our Louisiana Region Conference lay leader. Brother Pettaway, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Then I'm going to give our General Secretary for the CME Church about 30 seconds.
Can I interrupt you 1 second?
Go ahead, sure.
When we invited the mayor on, I committed an hour, so it would be okay if he excused himself if there's no other question for him.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let me unmute everybody, and I need you all to tell the mayor thank you. Yes, go ahead. And let me unmute everybody. I'm going to have to remute them again, mute them again. But I need everybody to go ahead and tell the mayor thank you for coming on and participating. All right?
Thank you, Mayor Perkins.
All right.
Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Perkins. Thank you.
All right.
And God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
Keep leading the city well.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. And let me unmute, let's see here. So let me go ahead and mute everybody again. Let me make sure I gotta mute everybody now because people, let's see here. That's kind of how. All right, everybody now should be muted. Well, I wanted you all to say something to the mayor, but I'm gonna have to go back in and mute you individually. But trust me, let's go ahead, Brother Pettaway, as I mute people. Go ahead.
Okay, greetings to all that is here. Thank you so much, Pastor Hudson, for providing this. It's an excellent thing to keep us connected, and it's a good thing to do to make sure that our community is aware of what's going on.
Okay.
I can't give enough thanks to the Shreveport Mayor, Mayor Perkins, and for the work that he does, and for the energy and professionalism that he brings to the office. It's a wonderful thing to see. I also thank Councilman Bradford, who's personal to my heart and a predecessor of mine, and have known him almost all my life and understand where he's coming from and the good that he does, whether the sun is shining on him or it's night. So we appreciate him also. I particularly echo their sentiments about we as a people need to understand that we don't need to fall for the okie doke.
Mm-hmm.
As we slowly start to open things up, that's not a sign for us to go out and just do whatever we want to do as if it was January of this year. We have got to remain vigilant, practicing all of the safe habits that we need to practice so that we can reduce that 70% of us being COVID to much less than that. So I just encourage people to be cognizant of the information that they're getting from our city leaders and from our pastors and local church leaders.
All right. Go ahead, Dr. Panay Woods, who is the General Secretary of the CME Church out of Memphis, Tennessee. Want to make sure that we greet you, and you go ahead and greet us, Dr. Woods, please.
Good evening, everyone, to you, Pastor, and to Councilman Bradford and the Mayor and all the wonderful people of Shreveport. I'm glad to be here on with you tonight to see that you all are getting the word out and letting people know more about this virus. Just to give you an update, the CME Church is doing well. Its leadership is doing well. And as you know, we all are being faced with having to make immediate changes to annual conferences and national meetings. So we're constantly right now working with our vendors and changing things. As you know, the National Youth Conference has been changed to next summer, 2021. We're working on those dates, and we're working on the Dallas Unity Summit for August, which will be changed as well. But we're so happy to see that our pastors are engaging in virtual worship and continuing to minister to their people. It's critically important that certainly we get the word out. We know that this virus is affecting those who are age 60 and older. There's a certain percentage of, I think 3.6%. If you're 70 to 76, I think it's about like 8%. And then of course, if you're over 80, it's affecting 15%. But it's adversely affecting African Americans. And we've been on calls with the Congressional Black Caucus, the NAACP, and other agencies trying to make sure that our people know to take this thing serious. And don't just, as the lay leader said, we can't just fall for anything or listen to anything. We have to make our people aware. They're to social distance, they're to protect themselves with masks and gloves, and to wash their hands and those things. And another thing, health-wise with African Americans, it's important that you get vitamin D. So you might encourage your people in your congregations or your family, make sure they're getting a vitamin D if they don't get 20 minutes of sun every day, vitamin D, vitamin C, and other things. And, of course, check with your doctors on any medications that you may have. Because we all know a lot of our persons are affected by hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, and those persons are very easy to catch this virus. And to make sure our young people know they can be asymptomatic and carry the disease and infect someone else. I'm just glad to be a part of your discussion tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Woods. And Councilman Bradford, did you have anything that you want to share with us before we go?
No, sir. I just appreciate I appreciate hearing the progress and the adjustments that the General Church is making. But let's just stay vigilant. Let's come through this together. And as I come in and to know additional things that we need to know, I relate them to you, and on your weekly broadcast, you can relate those to your audience, okay?
Sure will. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Harry Davis, who just came in as well, Pastor Manuel Henderson, Pastor Shirley Dewey, and others of you as well. I'm going to go ahead and conclude tonight's broadcast with just something that I want to share with you all very, very briefly, and then we're going to go. As you know, people, St. Luke, we've been vigilant as it relates to our housekeeping as far as our giving. On Sunday morning, our broadcast, as we will be continuing that, and then I will be sending out a Sunday school lesson. So make sure that you read Zephaniah chapter 3 this week, and as we prepare for that lesson as well. Thank you so very much. Let me go back to my slide here. I got to find my slide. I must have done something to it. But anyway, I'm gonna right here. Well, I had a slide there that I wanted to show Coach Anderson. I had a slide there that I wanted to show. When I was a boy, Coach Anderson, my favorite football player as a running back was a guy who played number 40 for the Chicago Bears. It's before your time, brother Anderson. But he was my favorite running back, and Gale Sayers was his name. There was a movie made about him called Brian's Song, and many people think that the screenplay was adapted from Brian Piccolo's life story. However, it was not. It was actually taken from his book, I Am Third. In the book, he says something. Gale Sayers had scored 6 touchdowns every way possible in a football game. Later that season, he tore his knee up, and he was afraid that he would never be the same again. And in his recovery, he said something that stuck with me. One of the players began to ask him, why is it that you are working so hard while you are in recovery? You are injured, you are hurt, and why is it that you are still outrunning us and outworking us and outlifting us? And this is what Gale Sayers said. Gale Sayers said in his book, I Am Third, he said, because when I come back, I don't want to come back limping, I want to come back running. And so I'm saying that to you, to all of us, St. Luke, to the CME Church, to everybody, after this is over, we will not come back limping. We're going to come back running. Thank you, and God bless you. I appreciate you for being on. Now may the grace of God, the love of our Lord and our Savior, who is still Jesus the Christ, let his love rest, rule, and abide now, henceforth, and forever. And everybody together said amen. Amen. And amen. I'm going to unmute you all as you all leave. Thank you so very much for your participation. I see everybody. Thank you so much. So as we say when it's time to go home from church, all right, thank y'all. But it's time to go home. Thank you, go home. You're at home already. Amen. You're already at the house. You're already at the house. You're already at the house. So go.
We already at home.
I was going to tell you to go home. All right. Thank y'all for coming in. Thank you for participating. And St. Luke, we'll see you on Sunday morning. God bless your heart. God bless your heart. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, my Bradford. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. So good to see you.
Okay.
Pastor Huck.
Yes.
Pastor Huck.
Yes. Hey.
Are you going to drive by communion or you're not doing communion?
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna call me on my line. Call me on the phone. I got a plan for you anyway. Call me. You need to call me. You call me. Me and you need to talk anyway. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Harry. Ms. Robinson, you finally got it. Bless your heart, but that's all right. Thank y'all so much. And I'm going to end the meeting, and God bless you. That's a mess.